I'll never forget the morning I walked into Pinnacle Enterprises, mop in one hand, bucket in the other, just another shift in my navy blue uniform. My name's Clara Thompson. I'm 48 years old, and for over 15 years, I've been the cleaning lady no one ever notices. Every day, executives in crisp suits breezed past me, their polished shoes tapping across the marble floors of that Chicago skyscraper. To them, I was background noise, until one day, I wasn't. It all changed over a spilled cup of coffee and a cruel laugh that echoed louder than any mop ever could. The man laughing, Victor Lang, the CEO. That moment burned into me. They'd looked down on me for long enough, and right then, I made up my mind. The humiliation stops here. Quick question before we go further: where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. I'd really love to know. Every night after that, I rolled my cart through silent halls lined with glass and chrome, the city skyline shining through the massive windows like a silent witness. And Victor's office, always a disaster zone, empty. Coffee cups, papers everywhere, like he thought he owned the building. Which, to be fair, he acted like he did. I'd hear his voice during the day, booming through the walls as he fired people like it was sport, laughing with his rich pals about trimming the dead weight. One time, I caught him shredding documents late at night. Financial papers. Stuff I wasn't supposed to see. I didn't say a word. I just kept cleaning. But I never stopped watching. Always watching. Be honest, what would you do if you stumbled across something shady like that? Then came the Tuesday that made it personal. I was wiping down the lobby tiles when Victor and his entourage marched in, loud and obnoxious as ever. Someone had spilled coffee by the elevator, probably one of them. Victor glanced over and barked, "Clean that up, Grandma." The whole lobby turned. His staff laughed like trained seals. My hands gripped the mop tighter. My cheeks burned with shame. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I looked down and kept scrubbing. That night, as I moved through those quiet offices, I whispered a promise to myself. "You'll regret that, Victor. I swear you will." That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat at the tiny kitchen table in my one-bedroom apartment, staring at the pile of documents Tom had helped me gather. Everything was there: Victor's forged numbers, illegal layoffs, shady backroom deals, all printed and organized. It was like watching a crime scene in ink. My uniform hung over the chair, still smelling like bleach. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that boardroom, mop in hand, and they'd laugh. But I'd be ready when the laughing stopped. I thought about my uncle, God rest his soul. He worked at Pinnacle before I did, and he believed in that place. Before he passed, he left me something no one else knew about: shares in the company. Not many, but just enough to give me a voice, one that Victor never saw coming. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was for every janitor, every assistant, every worker that man had crushed under his shiny leather shoes. I whispered out loud, barely louder than the ticking clock on the wall. "Tomorrow, Victor falls. Tell me, what's the boldest move you've ever made when everything was on the line?" The next morning, I walked into Pinnacle like it was just another Tuesday. Head down, cart rattling. But inside, I was electric. The boardroom was all ready. Full men in suits, sipping coffee, checking watches. Victor was at the head of the table, smirking like he ran the world. He didn't see me at first. No one did. That was the last time I'd ever be invisible. I waited just outside the doors. My phone buzzed. Tom's text. Now, my heart slammed in my chest. I pushed the doors open and walked straight in, still in my janitor's uniform, mop in hand. Every head turned. Conversations stopped. Victor raised an eyebrow, then chuckled like I was some lost tourist. "What the hell is she doing here?" he scoffed, waving me off like a fly. I didn't move. I stepped forward, my voice steady, even though my legs were shaking. "I'm not just the cleaning lady, Victor," I said, loud and clear. "I own part of this company." Silence. The kind of silence that crackles in the air like a lightning storm. Victor stared, then let out this big, fake laugh. "Nice joke, sweetheart. Now get back to your mop." A few board members snickered, unsure if they should laugh or be concerned. I didn't blink. I reached into my cart, pulled out a thick folder, and slammed it on the table. Then I started reading financial lies, doctored reports, emails where he called employees expendable. One by one, their smiles vanished. "I've got the shares," I said, locking eyes with him. "And more importantly, I've got the votes." Tom stepped into the room then, holding the signed proxy agreements. Victor's smug expression cracked like old paint. "You can't do this," he stammered, reaching for control that no longer existed. "Oh, but I just did," I said, stepping closer. "You're done, Victor. Effective immediately. You're fired." You ever see someone realize they've just lost everything in front of a crowd? That was Victor. His whole face turned crimson, lips twitching, fists clenched like he wanted to punch the air. The boardroom exploded into murmurs, whispers, panic. Victor just stood there, trembling, like the rug had been yanked out from under him. "This isn't over," he growled through gritted teeth, then stormed out of the room like a furious storm cloud, in an expensive suit. I didn't chase him. I didn't gloat. I just stood tall and turned to the board members, who were still stunned. Their eyes darted between each other, trying to make sense of what just happened. "Things are changing today," I said firmly. "No more laying off good people just to save a buck. No more pretending workers don't matter." For a moment, they just stared. Then one of them nodded. Another followed. Slowly, there was agreement across the room. The spell Victor had cast was broken. But I wasn't done yet. I took out my phone, tapped on a photo, and held it up for them to see. It was a picture of the night crew, the janitors, the ones who cleaned up after everyone else had gone home. Tired faces, honest hands. "These people work harder than anyone here," I said. "They're getting raises, starting today." At first, there was silence, then a single clap, and another, and soon, full applause, not from me but for the justice of it all. For the first time in 15 years, I wasn't invisible. I was a force. Have you ever had that moment where you finally got to say the thing you've been holding inside for years? When I walked out of the building later, I saw him, Victor, pacing like a caged lion in a parking lot. He was yelling into his phone, furious, pointing at nothing. His tie was loose, hair messed up, a man unraveling. I didn't stop to look. I just kept walking, my old bucket clattering behind me one last time, echoing like a closing chapter. That evening, my phone started blowing up. News alerts, social media buzzing, Pinnacle CEO removed in stunning shareholder revolt. But that wasn't even the best part. Regulators had gotten the leaks we sent anonymously. Victor's accounts frozen. His yacht seized. His name trending for all the wrong reasons. Online, people were calling him a crook, a tyrant, a disgrace. And just like that, the world flipped upside down for him. I sat on my old couch, still, wearing my work shoes, and let out a long, shaky breath. I wasn't scared anymore. I smiled. You ever witness someone's empire crumble faster than they could blame anyone else? The next day, the air inside Pinnacle felt different. Lighter, like the walls had finally exhaled after years of tension. I walked in no mop, no uniform, just jeans, a sweater, and a calm confidence that turned heads. This time, people didn't stare with confusion or pity. They looked at me with something new, respect. For the first time ever, I wasn't background noise, I was the story. The cleaning crew spotted me in the break room and rushed over. Wide-eyed and grinning. "You really did it, Clara," one of them said, handing me a hot coffee like it was a crown. I laughed, a real, full laugh I hadn't let out in years. Later that morning, I sat in Victor's old office, now mine. I was signing documents, real ones, salary adjustments, new ethics guidelines. The view hadn't changed, but everything else had. I wasn't just in the room anymore. I was running it. Have you ever felt yourself truly become visible after years of being ignored? Words spread faster than wildfire. By noon, my inbox was flooded. Reporters wanted the scoop. Former coworkers reached out with gratitude. But one email stopped me cold. It was from a janitor I hadn't seen in over a decade, someone Victor had fired just for asking for time off to care for a sick parent. His message was simple. You gave us our dignity back. I had to sit still after reading that. Let it sink in. That afternoon, I wandered the halls like a ghost turned flesh. People smiled, said hi genuinely. One young guy from accounting pulled me aside and said, "You're a legend, Clara." I chuckled and waved it off. "I'm just doing what should have been done a long time ago," I told him. But inside I felt 10 feet tall. Ever had someone thank you out of nowhere and it reminded you why you never gave up? That night, I walked into the old diner where Tom and I used to plan everything. He was already there, 2 sodas in hand, beaming. "You're trending, Clara," he said, holding up his phone. Cleaning lady turned CEO was everywhere. I laughed and shook my head. All I wanted was to get Victor out. Tom leaned back, smiling like a proud older brother. "You didn't just remove him. You shook the whole tree. Woke the whole place up." We toasted like kids with soda cans, clinking them together under the glow of downtown Chicago. The city looked the same. But me, I never felt more different. Ever tasted a victory so sweet it rewrote your entire story? A week later, the phone rang. Local news wanted me live interview, prime time. I said yes. Nervous, heart pounding. I sat under bright studio lights and told it all. The mop, the shares, the lies, the fall. The host leaned in. "Why did you wait so long, Clara?" I paused, thought about it, then said, "Because I needed proof and the right moment. You only get one shot to knock down a giant." After the show aired, my inbox exploded again. Messages from strangers, some crying, some cheering, some saying they finally spoke up at their jobs too. It was surreal. Have you ever inspired someone just by standing your ground without even meaning to? Back at Pinnacle, I didn't waste time. We didn't need more meetings, we needed change. First, I installed a suggestion box in the break room. The first note, "More coffee, please." I laughed, ordered a second coffee machine that same day. Then I sat down with the cleaning crew and asked them straight, "What do you need?" They said better gloves, better hours, and a little more respect. I said, "Done." A few days later, Miguel, one of the night shift janitors, pulled me aside near the supply room. His eyes were misty. "My daughter saw you on the news," he said quietly. "She told me she wants to be like you when she grows up." That hit me hard. I smiled through it, but something swelled in my chest. I placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Tell her to aim higher than me. Be even stronger." In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about Victor anymore. It wasn't even about me. It was about what came next. What we'd build together now that the gate was unlocked. What's one small change you'd make if you had the chance to run things your way? Victor, of course, didn't vanish into the shadows quietly. A month after he was ousted, I caught a clip of him ranting on some low-rent business channel. His face was flushed, his voice sharp with bitterness. She was a janitor. He barked at the host. She conned her way in. I rolled my eyes. But then the host leaned forward with a smirk. "Funny you say that," he replied, then played security footage of Victor losing control, flipping over furniture in his office, screaming like a tantrum-throwing toddler. I nearly choked on my tea laughing. The internet didn't waste a second. Within hours, memes were everywhere. People edited the footage with circus music. One tweet read, "When the CEO gets a taste of Windex justice." His meltdown trended harder than his entire career. Ever watched someone's ego collapse under the weight of their own pride? Victor's allies started dropping him like hot coals. His name turned into a punchline. Investors deleted his number. His reputation, once bulletproof, was now a meme factory. Meanwhile, back at Pinnacle, things were settling, but I couldn't ignore the feeling creeping up my spine like eyes following me down empty hallways. One night, walking home from the late shift, I noticed someone behind me. Not close enough to be obvious, but close enough to send a chill down my arms. Then my phone buzzed. It was Tom. Clara, he said, his voice urgent. Victor's been asking around about you, digging for something. Be careful. I froze in place. I'd beaten him publicly, legally, morally, but he still wanted to take me down. The next day, I took action, quietly hired private security not just for me, but for the cleaning crew too. I wasn't going to let them get caught in any blowback. I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I'd faced him once. If I had to again, I'd be ready. That mop? That was never my real weapon. My voice was, ever had someone try to pull you back down the moment you rose up? Victor's final play came just days later, and it was pure desperation. A sharp-suited lawyer walked into Pinnacle's lobby holding a thick envelope. He slapped it down on the front desk. Ms. Thompson is being sued, he said coldly, for manipulation and corporate theft. Really? I met him right there, calm and steady. Check your facts, I said, sliding over a certified copy of my uncle's will, his notarized transfer of shares. It's all legal. You're wasting time. Tom stood beside me, arms crossed, grinning like he was watching a magic trick. The lawyer flipped through the pages, turning pale. He stuttered, then quietly turned and walked away. By afternoon, the headlines rolled in. Judge throws out former CEO's lawsuit. No evidence. No case. Victor had officially lost. His legal fees ballooned. His last loyal contacts turned silent. The doors slammed shut for good. I leaned back in my chair, finally breathing freely. Ever witnessed someone's entire plan unravel right in front of them? Because I had, and it was beautiful. That final courtroom win hit different. I didn't jump for joy. I didn't scream or cry. I just exhaled, like I'd been holding my breath for years, and finally let it go. Victor was done. Not in a symbolic way, he was actually finished. Ever seen a plan fall apart so hard it folds in on itself? A full year passed. Pinnacle Enterprises, a completely different world now. The office walls didn't whisper dread anymore. The workers no longer looked over their shoulders. And me? I was still here, no longer mopping floors, but leading from the top. I hadn't just inherited an office. I inherited responsibility. And I meant every word I'd said. We raised wages across the board, canceled pointless layoffs. The cleaning team had real benefits now: health care, paid leave, uniforms that didn't feel like paper bags. The best part, people actually smiled. Not because they were forced to, but because they could. One morning, I walked through the hall and noticed something taped to my office door. It was a photocopy of the first ever suggestion I'd received in the break room box. More coffee. I had framed it and kept it on my desk, my own kind of mission statement. A quiet reminder of why I was here and who I'd promised to fight for. Victor. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Arizona trying to flip low-budget condos in a town now one could find on a map. Bank accounts frozen. Friends gone. Influence wiped. No more yachts. No more handshakes in luxury boardrooms. Just a bitter man shouting into the wind, hoping someone still cared. Funny how karma doesn't always knock at bulldozers. And me? I didn't see myself as a hero. I wasn't some corporate savior in a cape. I was still Clara, the same woman who used to scrub out coffee stains and sweep the break room twice a night. The difference? This time, people actually saw me. And if I could fight my way from a mop bucket to a boardroom chair, who's to say you can't? Ever told yourself, this is just how it is, and I'll never get out? Don't believe it, because I lived through it. And I won. One quiet morning, about a year after everything changed, I walked into the office early before the phones rang, before the coffee brewed. Just me and the hum of the building. I stood at the big window in Victor's old office. The skyline stretched in front of me like a reward I never asked for. Ever stood in a place that used to intimidate you and realized it's yours now? Emails were flooding in. A janitor from Boston messaged me. Said he saw my interview and filed a report against his own boss. Said he finally believed his voice mattered. I didn't even know him, but I felt like I'd been fighting for him all along. I started replying to every message I could. I couldn't fix every workplace, but maybe I could light a few fires in the right places. Then came a call from a nonprofit. They asked if I'd speak at a women's leadership summit. Me, a former janitor. I said yes without thinking, heart pounding like I was walking into that boardroom all over again. Funny how life circles back. When I stepped onto that stage weeks later, a packed auditorium stared up at me, not with judgment, with hope. I told them the truth, not the corporate version, my version. The bleach stains, the late nights, the betrayal, the fight. And I told them something else. You don't need a corner office to lead. You just need the courage to stand when everyone expects you to stay small. The applause didn't matter. What mattered were the faces, some crying, some nodding, some smiling like they just remembered who they were. Ever realized your story isn't just yours anymore? Back at Pinnacle, change was no longer a slogan. It was real. We launched mentorships, gave scholarships to the children of our staff, set up wellness days because burnout doesn't build legacies, people do. I watched a new janitor mop the lobby one evening. Young guy, headphones in, focused, just like I used to be. I smiled, walked past, and nodded. He nodded back, unaware of everything that had come before him but stepping into a future I helped carve out. Victor. His name became a ghost around here. His kind of leadership a cautionary tale. But mine? It was just beginning. Ever looked at your life and thought, maybe I made it? I have. And if no one's told you lately, so can you?